Just want to say thank you for attending today's Flexi webinar. We appreciate you taking some time to spend it with us to talk about Flexi. Today's Flexi webinar will be talking about using the AutoSerialize feature, and Aaron Clapp will be discussing that. Aaron is our Director of Training here at SAI, and he has years and years of experience with Flexi and knows everything there is to know about it, all the ins and outs and tips and tricks. So he will show you everything about using AutoSerialize and Flexi. And then after that is done, then we will have a question and answer session. So if you do have any questions, either about AutoSerialize or about Flexi in general, then just go ahead and type those into the chat window at the bottom there, and we'll try and answer as many of those as we can. And we will be recording today's Flexi webinar. So if you have to step out or you'd like to share this with someone else, we'll be posting it on our YouTube channel, and we will send everyone an email with the link to the recording as well. And with that, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Aaron.
All right, good deal. So let's get started today. We're taking a look at auto-serialization. This is one of those automated features in Flexi that I can be a little bit underrated, but it's really helpful if you're doing a lot of numbered stickers or you have a lot of names or other things. I want to kind of just take a look at three kind of big examples of how we can use AutoSerialize to kind of help make things easier on you guys. One of the things that can be a pain is if you have something that's going to be the same decal, but it has something different in it. For example, like a name change or perhaps even something like a number, like a hotel room number or something like that. That can very easily become very, very tedious. Trying to type in each number on each copy, formatting all the text and whatnot. The goal here is to use our auto serialize under the arrange menu and get past that. So it's just an easy, quick step. And we'll kind of go over some different things that we can do. So the first file I'm going to load up is this one here. Let's see, go open, and I'm just going to do our hotel number here. So this is just a simple little graphic that we're going to kind of be using throughout all these examples, and we're just going to change it a little bit as we go. I've got a logo here, and in this case, it's a room number, but I have this set of text down here that I want to make different. So what you're going to do is, in order to kind of get all this set up, is you're going to format everything in the way that you want it to do or want it to look, and then you're going to put some placeholder text in the area that you want it to replace. So in this case, I just put 1901 because I figured, well, I never want to go above 4 numbers, but I want to be able to get my spacing correct for 4 numbers. So when you auto serialize, we're going to select the entire object and go to Arrange and Auto Serialize. And you're going to get this little window here. And it's going to give you several different parameters and things that you can edit. But if I have this field blank, I'm going to get access to the number of copies, so I can tell it how many copies I'd like it to do. So I want to do 50 of these. This kind of gives me a little bit of formatting in terms of how it places these. So I could do these in like 4 or 5 columns. This is more for formatting, so that if you kind of know the width of the design, you can kind of lay these out in a way that they'll just fit on your media. And I can choose some spacing and some row spacing. That's all fairly easy stuff to take a look at. Over here on the right, though, this is the text that it is recognized inside of this graphic. Now, this is important because if it's not text, it's not going to recognize it. So what I'm going to do is to kind of illustrate this, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to copy this over. I'm going to take all this text. Actually, I'm going to take the whole thing, and I'm just going to say convert to outlines. So now the text is just vector artwork. It's just lines and arcs now. And if I select this and go back to my AutoSerialize, now it says there's nothing to serialize. So another example would be is if, let's say, we take this and maybe we take these two and we will convert these to outlines and then go back into AutoSerialize. Now I only get the room. So it is important that if you ever do get a graphic from somebody, a PDF, an EPS, an Illustrator file, make sure that they maintain the text as text and not as a vector. Because if they convert it to lines and arcs, you're not going to be able to do the AutoSerialize. Or, well, you would have to just go back and replace that text. So just one thing to note is it does need to be in a text format. So we're going to go ahead and continue then. I can come in here and I can choose which ones I want to select, and I can select multiples. But in this case, all I'm really interested in is changing this number 1901. So I'm going to click on that and hit next. And well, this kind of already got filled in because I was playing around with it earlier, but I'm going to hit AutoSerialize. Normally this would all be blank. I'm going to hit AutoSerialize and I'm going to tell it what I want it to do. I can do it by characters or numeric if I want to. In case I want to do 1901 A, B, C, I can do that. In this case, I want to start at room 1001 and I want to increment it by 1. And I hit OK. And it's going to automatically create a list of numbers for me. And I can kind of look through this if I really want to and see, what's going on. I'm going to go back here because it loaded this file. I want to do my 50 copies. Next, I'm going to do that again. Start with 1001. And now I should see 1050. Yep. So now I can go, it goes all the way to 50. So now at this point, my list looks good. I can go ahead and hit finish, and it's going to create, it's going to leave my original, and then it's going to create 3 columns of all my numbers in here. And they're all perfectly, the letters are centered because I went ahead and did all that ahead of time. I created the graphic and made sure everything was centered. It does everything for me and just replaces those numbers as is. And now if I was contour cutting these, I could just select this whole lot and contour cut these if I needed to. So it's really that easy. Let's go back though, and let's pull up a slightly different example. We're going to go to some names. So same graphic, just a little bit different. Now I've taken out the other pieces here and I've put in this placeholder of employee name. Again, it's text. I can see that by what it shows in Design Central right here. I can see that this is text because it lets me modify that. So I've created a little file, and this is where it's really easy to create these list files. You might even have like an Excel document that has a list of names or employee names or data that you'd want to put into something like an AutoSerialize. So I'm going to pull this over to my screen here. Now this is Notepad++, but you can use this with any regular, you could just use this with the Windows Notepad. Doesn't matter. The only thing that you need to do is this file needs to be what they call tab delimitated, or I can't speak. But anyway, separated by tabs is essentially what I'm trying to say there. So the John and the Smith is separated by 1 tab. The Ben and the Newman, even though the spacing looks weird because Ben is so short, the next tab is real close. So 1 tab in between each of these. One thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to do this, tab and then tab again, to make them all even. because what will happen is if I do that, and in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and save this file and do that with a couple of these. Save it, and we'll see what happens in a minute. But it's not going to recognize this second name because I put in too many tabs. So again, you can even put some headings up here. So let's just say I wanted to put in name tab or first, last. I can even do that. And in the software, there's a button there that allows us to skip the first line so we don't use it. So here's my file. I've already created this. I got a few names in here. I'm going to come back to my software here. I'm going to go ahead and highlight just like I did before. Just drag and select. Go back to arrange. I'm going to do AutoSerialize. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to say, yeah, let's just do 4 columns. I'm going to go ahead and click on employee and name. I'm going to click edit file, or sorry, browse. I'm going to click on names. I'm going to open that up. Again, it's just a text file. And then that's going to make your copies blank out because it's only going to make as many copies as you have names. And then here's that option right here where it says ignore the first row in the file. That's because we have that category, first and last name. We don't want it to necessarily use that. So I'm going to hit next. And you can see that it's already went ahead and filled in everything for me. See now remember those two names that we used 2 tabs in? It's not registered them correctly. And so that's why it's important. Even though it looks strange on the text editor, just go ahead and leave those with 1 tab. So to fix this, I'm going to go back here and delete one of the tabs, delete the tab, save it, minimize that. I'm going to go back, just reload the file, ignore the first row, next, and now those are fixed. Now I've got Newman there, and I've got Harris after Lou. So real easy. All I have to do now is hit finish, and it automatically adds all these names to that graphic. So this could be used in a variety of different ways. You can set this up with different numbers and different things like that. But having a text file and managing a text file of a list of employees or a list of numbers or a list of any kind of characters that you may want, let's say prices, different things like that. That's another one. Item codes or item numbers. This works with all kinds of other features like the barcode, the QR codes. This works with a ton of other things as well. In fact, one of the ones that I was going to show you next is the QR code. But easy as that, just really, really simple. Let's open up the next file. All right. So this is a little bit of a weird example, but I took the rest of the file out, and now we just have a QR code here in the middle. And if I convert this back to text, it's just a placeholder text. I just typed in URL, I went to text, selected QR code, and then I selected text to QR code. And then what I did was I just resized it the way that I wanted to. So I'm just going to hit undo, go back to where I was. So I want to take this and apply a bunch of different websites to this and have it automatically generate some QR codes for me. So I'm going to select my QR code, my design, and everything. I'm going to go back to AutoSerialize. This time I'm going to uncheck this option, and I'm going to show you what I've done here in our text editor. So I just pulled up a bunch of websites, and so these are the different websites that I have in my text file. I don't have any tabs. I just have several rows of these, and I don't have a heading at the top either. So real simple file, not much there. But it recognizes, despite that this is a QR code, it automatically recognizes that this is already text. And so that's what's really cool here, is that despite this is a QR code, it knows that that's text. So I can select that. I'm going to browse to my file, click on websites. It's automatically going to load the number of copies. I do not want to ignore the first row. I'm going to hit next. It's going to load in all my websites that I put in, and I can hit finish. And now it creates individual QR codes for each website that I had put in. And what's really cool is if I click on this, I'm going to have to ungroup this because it does group everything together. So I'm going to hit ungroup all. I'm going to select this QR code and I'm going to convert it back into text just to verify so you guys can see what it's done. So QR code to text, there's my Yahoo. And we can kind of go through a couple here. QR to text, there's my NFL.com. Think SAI. So you can see that it's automatically done this, and each one of these is the correct text and QR code. So this is really powerful. This can work with all kinds of things. You can most likely do this with, well, you can do this with Braille. You could do the same thing with a barcode. I would imagine you could do data metrics as well. You can do all kinds of different things with this to help facilitate what you guys are doing. So you could have a price or an object with maybe a barcode and a price. And if you want to generate a bunch of barcodes, you could do that. All kinds of uses. This has a ton of different uses. The other cool thing about this is that if I go back to, let's go back to my names file here. If I grab this and I go back in here and I go select these, hit next, I can also export this list if I need to. So let's pull up our names file again. Go to next. If I don't have a text file with this already set up, or I just need to re-export it again, I can always just hit export, and then it will allow me to set this as a tab delimited text file. And I can save that and use it again. So this would be not particularly helpful in this case where we have names, but for our numbers example, that would probably actually be a better one. Because instead of creating a list of 50 numbers, you can have that just generated and then have it output. So you can use that set of numbers in the next one. So that is auto serialization. It's really simple, really easy. Just a few key things to remember. Just your little quick hitches that you might run into. Number one, so we're going to go over those real quick. Number one, make sure that your text or whatever that you intend to replace, make sure that that's actually text and not curves or arcs or lines and whatnot. It's been converted. So make sure it's in text. When you select the objects, everything that you have selected, when you hit that auto serialize, is gonna go ahead and duplicate. So just make sure that that's all correct in terms of what you want selected. Because each one of those will duplicate. And then when you're setting up a data file, make sure that you can have a category at the top. Just make sure you just use one tab in between each sets of data so that when you import those in, it doesn't blank them out. So if you get those blanks out, make sure and delete a tab or a space or something that might be blocking or confusing the thing there. And that's simple as it is. Really easy, really quick, really fast. It can be used with anything. Just about any feature in Flexi can be used to do this. And it'll help make your life a little bit easier. Do you guys have any questions? Can you have contour cuts already set before you auto-serialize? Yeah, actually, you can. So if I just try and apply a contour cut here, I'm going to highlight that up here. Go to AutoSerialize. It still recognizes my numbers, even though I have a contour cut. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And we'll say next. And we're going to do and now it's auto-serialized everything with the contour cut on it. Actually, that's a good question because you don't have to, then that saves you one extra step where you don't have to apply the contour cut after. You can just apply it right to the original object. But yeah, that's another good one. One of the ones that I wasn't really sure about or I haven't used very frequently was that QR codes one. That one is really interesting because typically in the past you'd always have to take like a group of text, select it, and then go to QR code. This allows you to do all that QR code or barcodes or Braille once, and then it automatically converts everything to Braille for you or to QR code or whatnot. So that's really helpful as well. So just about any effect can be used on here. Mainly, it's just making sure we get the text replaced. I can also do other things here. So let's just try another little quick example. If we take AutoSerialize and let's say I want to replace the word hotel with a number, I can do that as well. So or a number or a letter. So why don't I just start with, let's try a character just so that we can see what that looks like. And I believe, let's go back and make 50 copies of this just so that we can kind of see what will happen when we get past. So then once you get past the Z's, then it starts adding an additional letter to it. Oh, my formatting is a little bit off there. I'd have to probably adjust my, if I was going to replace this with something like that, I'd probably want to adjust my spacing originally. What do I have this set to? Ungroup. Control ungroup. Oh, that's got a contour cut. We got to clear that off there. So my spacing is set to middle. I probably would want to change my orientation to something like left align instead or something like that, or maybe decrease my tab spacing or something like that to fit those letters in there. I kind of set up everything up for these letters specifically, and that's something that you might run into. So that's actually a pretty good thing that we tried here. But yeah, make sure that you will have to kind of adjust your spacing and your text and your alignments so that everything will fit properly. One of the other things that you'll probably need to kind of be aware of is that, for example, in the names, I started out when I first created this. I started out with employee name being much larger text. I actually had it at 2.5 inches like this, but then I thought to myself, wait a minute, what if I have an employee name that's really long, like this Amanda Anderson or Edgar Gonzalez? Those names may not fit in there, so you would need to kind of pre-plan for the largest name and for the shortest name and just kind of get an idea of what that's going to look like, because it will just expand past your design. It doesn't auto return or auto constrain or anything like that. So that's just something you kind of want to keep in mind It's just making sure that you do set that spacing up for the potential most longest name that you might have.
All right.
Question here from Liz Moore says, can you use a text from Excel list? You should be able to, yeah. So when you go into Excel and you create your columns, you should be able to export it just as a text file, and that should work. Now, I know that specifically this program does not allow you to choose that type of file. It has to be a .txt, but your Excel should be able to handle that. Let's see, and do we have any other questions here? Looks like Bob has a question here.
Bob. Can you hear me, Aaron?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Sorry, my mic was giving me trouble. So Bob says, I'm not sure if this applies, but I have a situation where I'm needing to fill the space of a 1x4-inch box with a random string of characters that work as labels that need to be read from a distance. Some can be as short as 3 characters long, some are as long as 12 characters. We have a few examples here, and then I'm typically given an Excel sheet of this data to copy and paste from. There are sometimes upwards of 1,000 cells of them, and not all of them are sequential. I'm stuck having to touch every single one to fill the space. Any ideas on how to speed up this process?
Okay. I would imagine that you would be able to. I guess a follow-up question would be: is if this is an Excel spreadsheet that's already being given to you, and you don't have to create these numbers necessarily, they're pre-generated for you, or however that works. You should be able to export that as just a plain old list. So instead of having, for example, so we could just take this file here. Actually, let's create a new one, and we'll just do some random typing here. And let's just go back and remove some of the special characters just in case. I don't know if it'll cause a problem. And we'll save that. And let's just take this, and what I might do is, in this case, I'm going to probably come in here and edit this so that it just says number, because I don't want it to recognize more than one word necessarily. Browse. Oh, I got to click my thing there. And see, you can see it's pulled those in. So as long as you can export to a text file, even though they're single tabs, you should be able to do what you're saying if you can export as a text file. And as long as they're just in like random number, return, random number, return, random number, return, you should be able to insert those. And then as long as you do center spacing on your text, you should be able to create those, and it should be able to kind of fill that in for you. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helps or answers your question.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Let's see, do we have any other questions right now, either about the AutoSerialize or anything else that you've been working on? Okay. Well, I don't see any more yet, so we will be posting, as I said, this on our YouTube channel. So let me just post the link right here. Actually, Glenn, there we go. So Glenn asked, where can I find some of the webinars I've missed in the past? And so here's the link to the SAI YouTube channel. And so you can view all past webinars, and then we will also post today's webinar as well. So you can review this anytime you would like. And let's see here. Our next webinar it is currently scheduled for January 14th. And that one will be talking about how to use Sidekick, which is a new tool from SAI designed to help organize and record your shop and your sales and simplify your project management. So we'll be sending out an email as usual for that. So we'll plan on seeing you folks on January 14th.
Also, just as a side note as well, I like to mention this every time we get a chance, but if you guys are interested in one-on-one training, we do offer that for Flexi and for EnRoute. You guys can purchase 2 hours or 4 hours of training, and then what we do is I get to talk to you about whatever topics you want. So you can pick if you want me to go over auto-serialization with you, we can do that, or any other type of topic. We do 1 hour sessions, and then we record those as well, and then we send you the recording later so you can download it and then you always have it. So you can find that information at thinksai.com. Let me just pull it up here. So it's www.thinksai.com
/training.
Yep. Or if you go to support, click on Flexi, training and events, that will also get you there. And then right here is where you can learn more about training and events and stuff like that. So just wanted to let you guys know about that. So that is available if you guys are interested as well. So